Me gusta! Hello and welcome back to Minecraft Mod Guide with episode 3. Today I'll be talking to you all about the forge mod information file. Now this is a file that holds all the metadata for mods info that's visible in the mods tab in Minecraft. So I'll be showing you every entry that you can have in this mods info thing, explaining them in my own words as well as showing you a link which shows them perfectly explained anyway, but I want to make a video to show them in my own words in case you don't like the words of that link. And I'll be showing you examples of using them with some pre-made classes to explain how certain things work. So now I'm just going to show you these pre-made classes I've got, and I've got a tutorial.java class which is going to be a base mod of my mod, and it's going to have a mod ID of tutorial mod. This thing here I'll come to in a second. But then I'll have two other classes. I've got core tutorial and add-on tutorial with mod IDs core tutorial mod and add-on tutorial mod. These are three different separate mods, but I've got these two at the end, core tutorial and add-on tutorial, to show that this core tutorial would be needed before we can install tutorial. I'm just simulating that, so this needs to load before that, and then add-on adds on to the normal tutorial, so this loads after everything. And I'll be using that idea to further explain some ideas in the mcmod.info file. I'll explain what I meant by mcmod.info in a sec. Another thing you need to take into account is that here I usually have mod ID, name and version. I've taken out name and version, left the mod ID because that's needed, obviously keeping that quite unique. But then the next thing is use metadata equals true in this at mod annotation. I've done that for all three and left them all to true. This basically tells the game to look at the mod information file for this mod, and I'll show you how you compare that to this mod instead of using whatever else would be here. So overwrite what's here, which we haven't got anything there, so it doesn't matter, so nothing to overwrite with that mod information file. And I'll be doing the mcmod.info, the mod information file for tutorial, because you can only have one per file, one mod explained per file, one mod metadata if you want to say per file. Even though I've put true for these two, but they won't actually have one. That means that they just won't have any information. They'll just have mod ID in the mods tab. So if you wanted like 3 separate mods and you wanted them all to have mod information files, you'd have to have them all in separate zip or jar archives when you store them into the mods folder, and have them each with their own mcmod.info mod information file. So even though they're all named the same thing, they'll be in different locations, and all of them will be taken into account in that mods tab of Minecraft. So now we're going to create that mod information file, and I kept saying mcmod.info parts because that's actually what it needs to be called. It has to be called that, nothing else. So if you wanted multiple ones, like I said before, you'd have to have 3 different ones and put them in the mod files afterwards. You can't really test with all of them in here, you can only test with one there. But to create one, it has to be in the base directory of Minecraft. So where it says source, it has to be in that directory. It can't be in any packages, which isn't too bad because when you move them to your mod files to install, it'll already be that in the base area of your mod, so it wouldn't really matter. Here it might get a bit confusing, but it's only one file, so you should be able to live with it. Anyway, what you do is you go to the top where it says source, right click, new, and you would do a file. So not class, just file at the bottom here. And then at the file name, you want to put mcmod, so mcmod.info info. So mcmod.info, all lowercase, finish, and that will create this file which has no specific thing in it. And to set up this to be a mod information file, you have to do a square bracket, then a curly bracket, and then a closed curly bracket, and a closed square bracket, and everything goes in between these curly brackets. So I'll be showing you each thing, explaining them, and then using these 3 classes I had before, these 3 mods even, to simulate what's going to happen if you do certain things. Oh, another thing, every single object put in here, so for everything you can define as a value, that thing that you want to define is in speech marks, then you put a semicolon, and then you put, if it's a string, you put that in speech marks, and if it's an array, you put it in squares, with each object in the array, in that square, sorry, with square brackets, and each object in the array in speech marks. So that might sound really confusing now, but I'll explain in a sec. Now, before I start explaining in my own words, I'm going to show you this link, which I'll have in the description below, and it's just basically explaining pretty much every single thing you can have in the mod information file, and explains them in this word. So you can read this if you want to and just stop the video now, but if you want to listen to how I explain it with some examples to further explain it even better, then I'll show you that now. So the first value we can have in there is mod ID, so we put speech mark mod ID speech mark and semicolon, and then we put speech marks again because it's a string value. We need to write the mod ID of the mod that we want this to be linked to, so it would be my tutorial.java mod, and the mod ID is tutorial mod, so you just copy that, paste it in between speech marks, and then you know in Java when you end a line you put semicolon. For this you put a comma instead, so when you put comma it means you want to go on to the next line, a different value. The next value is the name of the mod, so you put speech mark name, speech mark, semicolon, and it's a string value, so you put speech marks again and end it with a comma. Inside of speech marks you put the visible name of the mod that will be visible in the mods tab, so I'll pull this something like tutorial mod. The third thing is description, so you put speech mark description, speech mark or lowercase by the way, semicolon, it's a string value, so again speech marks, end it with a comma, and this is the visible description of the mod in the mods tab, so put something like this mod is used for Minecraft Money Guide 3. Fool. Yeah. So that's that. Now the fourth one is version. So you put version again as speech marks. I'll stop saying that now. Semicolon, speech marks again because it's a string, comma to end the line. And basically this is the version of the mod. It's not the version of Minecraft, it's for the version of the mod. So this is the first version, we'll put 1.0. Now the one that comes after this is mcversion, or lowercase, and this is a string again. And what you put inside speech marks here is the Minecraft version this is for, so we're obviously modding for 1.6.2 in this video, so we'll put here 1.6.2, but I'm pretty sure this Minecraft information won't really change for the future versions of Minecraft. The next thing is URL, and this is a string value, and this is basically a visible URL on the mods tab for your mod. So you'd usually put like the Minecraft forum or the Planet Minecraft link to your mod, or if it's its own website, the link to the website. But because this is not really part of a mod, I'm going to release, I'll just put my YouTube channel just to show where it gets showed on the mods tab. Now the next thing is updateUrl, with URL starting with a capital U. This is a string value again, but this is actually currently unimplemented in the game, so there's no point including anything there. But basically when it isn't implemented and it's explained how to use it, it's going to be a URL for your mod that's actually the update URL, as you can see by the name, which Forge will use to like at startup test to see if there's any mods that need to be updated, and if they do it will say oh this needs to be updated, click download to download from the URL above. But the updateUrl will just be, it'll probably just be like a file or something on your local server saying the current version is blah blah blah, and then it will say oh this version's less, that must mean there's a new version or something like that. The next thing is authors, so this is all lowercase, and this is actually a array. So instead of having speech marks we have two square brackets of ending with a comma again, so all ends the same, and then for each object in the array separate them with commas, but each object themselves will be in speech marks. And these are basically people who have contributed to the mod, so not everyone, but people who have coded, people who have given images, people given sounds, etc. like that. So there'll be, let's say me, obviously because I've coded it, Mr. Mugambe, and some lad next door, I don't know, some random people, and obviously separate them with commas and put each one in speech marks. Now the thing afterwards you put is credit, or lowercase again. This is a string value, so not an array, a string value. This is where you can use full sentences, and it's basically anyone who contributes to the mod, from maybe coding the mod, images and sounds, to bug testing, ideas for the mod, giving you a banner for the thing, helping you do links, whatever. You can credit whoever you want to. So credit, I'm going to credit, you can credit whoever. It's good to credit the authors as well, but for this purpose I'm just going to credit to Minecraft and CPW for making an awesome game that can be modded and something to mod it with, because CPU contributed to making Forge, if you didn't know. And the next thing afterwards is logoFile with a capital F on file, and this is a string value, and this was implemented in 1.5 and for the updates before, but then it sort of disappeared in this update 1.6, but hopefully it'll be back in 1.7 or another update of Forge. But basically this was a banner that was visible above the title of your mod in the mods tab, and what you put in the string is the location of this relative to the base structure of Minecraft. So if we have our package called mcmg3 or the folder called mcmg3 and we wanted a banner in there called banner.png or something, then we put here mcmg3/banner.png, so that would be our banner. But because that's not implemented in this current version of Minecraft or current version of Forge, it could just be a Forge thing, I'm not going to put that in. Next thing is screenshots, and this is another thing that's currently implemented, like updateUrl. It was never been implemented before, and I don't know when it will be. This is an array, so again square brackets, and each object's in speech marks, and what you put in these speech marks is, again, like in logoFile, the location of the images you want to be screenshot. So in that folder mcmg3, if I had a screenshot called shot1.png, I'd put that there, and if I had another one called, I don't know, shot2.png, I'd put that there, and so on and so forth. As many as you need, to be fair, but I don't know how it will work when it gets implemented. But because I have nothing to put in there, I just leave it blank. So you know, if you leave speech marks blank, you just not put anything between there. If you want to leave an array blank, you just put 2 square brackets and nothing else in between. Now here comes the stuff that involves these mods up here. This next thing is called parent, or lowercase, and this is basically a mod. It's a string, by the way. This is actually basically a mod that is required before this mod can work. So if we said this was a tutorial mod but it required something called core tutorial, we'd get the mod ID, so it's the mod ID of the mod, and put that in the parent, and you can only have one. And the next thing afterwards is required mods. So these are any mods, if I can spell it right. Oh, I can't even spell it right. There we go. Required mods, or capital M and mods. And this is an array. Each object will be the mod ID of the mods that are required for this to work. So good thing about required mods is that anything in this, if it's here but the mods are actually present in the installs, so if it's not installed but the mod ID is actually here, Forge will not let you load the mod because it doesn't want you to crash the game. So it would say, oh, this mod's not installed, but your mod.info file says you need it, so you must get this before the game can work. So if you said they had like Optifine and you made like an add-on for Optifine to like making it better or something, you would put Optifine's mod ID here, because then that would load first, and then your mod would overwrite the files. Because if your mod loaded first and then Optifine overrided some of the files you had, it could break your mod and maybe break the game. And it's always good to have Forge here. So Forge's mod ID is capital F, and it's Forge. And I have that core tutorial mod, so I want that to load before, because it's a core. So I'll put that there. Obviously it won't break if I don't put it there, because obviously there's nothing in these files. But let's say there was stuff that I needed to load before this mod, then I'd put core tutorial mod there. Next thing is dependencies, and this is a array again, and this is basically anything that will load before this mod loads. So this is similar to required mods, but it just loads anything before the mod. It doesn't check for any mods here and say, oh, if it's not there it'll crash. But it's good to have these first. So not only do you need these mods, not only do you need these mods required, but you should always have them loading first. You have Forge load first, which obviously it does, and then you have core tutorial mod load first, so there's no worry of the mod or the game spazzing out going, oh, it's not there, but it is. But yeah, so it's good to copy that, and then anything else you want to load before for some reason whatsoever. This next thing is called dependants, and this is basically anything. It's an array, by the way, and this is basically anything that will load after this mod. So remember we had that add-on tutorial, and I said this is going to simulate a mod that would load after tutorial. We'd put that mod ID there, again in speech marks. And now the very last thing for this, which is yay, because this has been quite a long video for some reason, I never thought it would be this long. And the next thing is useDependencyInformation, and that's capital D and capital I for dependency and information. It's a string, and basically this is going to say, do you want to use dependency information above? So these two here. You might want to say no, I don't want to, but always put this true. I mean always, like never put this false. And why that's good is because if it's true and it does see stuff here, it will do it. But if there's nothing in here, so if this is blank and this is blank and it uses defensive information but there's nothing existent, then obviously nothing will happen. So it's always keep this true, because yeah, just keep it true. That's all I say. Never put it false. Now I've just realised a few things wrong with my mod. First thing is useDependencyInformation. I accidentally put a DAN, it should be DEN. And after the last value you don't have to put a comma, and I don't think you should. And another thing is with parent, when I had parent as a mod that doesn't have mcmod.info file, I realised that none of the mod info worked. So what I'd advise is that you'd leave parent blank, because required mod does exactly what parent does, except it also checks to see if it's loaded or if it's installed even. So I'd always leave parent blank but use required mods as if it was parent and required mods in one. So I'm sorry for that problem, but yeah, that's how you'd fix it in case you have any problems. So if you've done this all right and you load Minecraft, it should load correctly. So come to the start screen, and if you go to the mods tab, 6 mods loaded, so that's more than usual. If you go to the mods tab, you can see we have our core tutorial and our add-on tutorial, which had no mod information file, but then we had tutorial mod, which we created, and there you can see all that information. So you would have a banner at the top, but obviously it's not there anymore. I don't know why it's been taken off. We have our version 1.0, our mod IDs there, mod state available, credits, that was the credit we wrote, and that's been cut off a bit, so I'd say we'll keep it a bit shorter than I wrote. Authors, each author that I put in, URL, it says no child mods for this mod. I don't know how we can change out anything, but leave it. And then this is the description we had. You can't see the Minecraft version, don't know why, but maybe that's just how it is. And you can't see what's dependencies and what's dependents, because that's for the code to look at, not for the game. And yeah, so if we did like sort of break it, so say I don't know, a required mods core tutorial mod, but this was a non-existent mod, so we called this something different, so that's completely different from this core tutorial mod, so that's required. It needs to be loaded first, but it doesn't actually exist in the files. Then when we load Minecraft, hopefully, which is a weird thing to say, there will be an error. Yes, there'll be an error. Forge modder has found a problem with your Minecraft installation. The modern version of the list could not be found. Core tutorial mod. So that's saying we could not find that, even though it's a required mod for one of your mods. Therefore, we had to shut down the game. So be sure to make sure you got everything right, in case you're thinking, oh, why is this not working? Just check all the spellings and stuff, because that's important. So yeah, that's that done. I hope that was quite a long episode, but hopefully you can do that off by heart now without need of any help or anything. I'll have the files available for you to download in the description below. It's an add file link. You just wait 5 seconds, click skip add at the top right, and then it'll skip to MediaFire, and you can just download it there from free. Again, yeah, it's a long episode, but I'll try and make the next ones a bit more snappy, but also still as kind of well explained as this one. Hopefully it was well explained. If it was well explained or you liked it, then I wouldn't mind you clicking the thumbs up below, the like button if you don't know what a thumbs up is, but you probably do know what a thumbs up is. And yeah, I hope I'll see you guys next video.